I would love to get back there. All right, guys, welcome to 100 houses in how long? 10 years? 50 years?
1 year.
365 days.
Make sure everybody can hear us online too. All right, cool. All right, so this has a ton of information in it. We have, if you have not gotten your book copy of the E-Myth Real Estate Agent, make sure you let me know, because the office did get a copy for at least 100 of our 135 agents. We figured not everybody would ask for one, and they're in my office. So anyway, this is just a book I wrote. This is my 30-year journey of real estate that I've documented in the book, and just kind of documented my systems, what helped me get to selling 100 homes a year. And so now I'm on this life mission that if I can sell 100 homes a year in the very, I won't say lazy fashion, but I'm going to say lazy in the world of real estate agents, guys, this is not something that consumed my life 80 hours a week and to sell 100 homes a year. I mean, if I told you right now, I'm going to hand you 10 listings and they all need to be on the market by tomorrow morning, what would your life look like? Probably wouldn't happen. So there's systems in place that allow, I can put 10 listings on in a day in 24 hours. I've got about 2 hours per listing total invested. But if somebody handed me 10, it would be 10 hours. I could have them all on, full photos, room measurements, all that sounds crazy until I met an old guy. He's like 80 years old at a family reunion. He does them in 18 minutes. I'm like, who the heck can list a house in 18 minutes? And he's got his system that dialed in. So anyway, that's kind of what this is about. So we're going to go through the story. I want to record this so anybody else can come back and watch this. And I would suggest you might even want to watch this again and again and again. And let me know if you've read the book, how it applies. If you like the book so far, I mean, is it good?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're not just saying that because we're in front of a whole group of people.
No, like I said, it looks like a child took coloring and scribbled all through it.
Right. Well, no, that's good because I'm not an author. I mean, I am an author now, but I was not an author when I wrote the book, and it took me 2 years to write the book because I'm not an author. And to be able to get something that actually is readable and good, I mean, Gerber is the one that got it out of my head, and so I could share that. So that's what today's objective is about. It's about bringing in the MREA book and the E-Myth book. And I'll give you the history of this real quick. E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber came out over 30 years ago, 35 something years ago. And it was why small businesses don't work and what to do about it. It's one of the few books I've read cover to cover, probably a dozen times. So I implemented that book because it was so simple. It's about a lady that owned a pie shop and she loved making pies. So she opened a bakery, and can you imagine what probably happens? Just because you're good at making pies doesn't mean you're good at what? Running a business, right? And so pretty soon it was consuming her. She was working, being there 2 in the morning till 7 o'clock at night. It was running her life and all that other stuff. So Gerber interviews her and talks about the pie. So your aunt or grandmother taught you to make this pie. Just document what it is you do specifically and teach other people to do the exact same pie. Now she started getting leverage, right? So that's kind of where the E-Myth came from. When Millionaire Real Estate Agent book came out, Gary Keller basically tagged real estate defined everything that I had been doing from the E-Myth, plus a lot of other insight, like the actual expense report shows where to put your money. What am I thinking of? Chart of accounts, the 7 levels, all that stuff, how to grow the business. So it even took it to a whole nother level. So in the book, I talk about in chapter 1 and 2, it's a story. And what I want to ask you guys right now today as we get into this is I want you to find out a little bit about where you are versus just make this a training class about how to get to 100 sales. What is your story? I mean, what do you guys want real estate to do for you? What do you want it to fund? And I know Gary Keller teaches us in 7 levels of business to build 5 levels of revenue streams, 5 businesses. So real estate, you build real estate to fund the next one. And then you make that one profitable and your real estate business is run without you to do the next one and the next one. And it could be a charity, it could be whatever it is, investing in real estate, buying rentals and flipping houses or whatever it might be. Opening an ice cream shop was actually the McKissicks. I think it was the McKissicks, which are one of the first big agents to come over to KW 20 years ago, and they just wanted an ice cream shop. So they got their ice cream shop through their profit sharing. So in my story, I mean, I tell the story of why and how I'm sharing this with you and how I got to 100 sales a year that happened whether I was there or not. And mine actually starts on March 13th, 2015, which this is, if you look it up on the calendar, it's a Friday, the 13th of all days. And this is what happened. So I'm in Louisiana speaking at a real estate thing. My wife, Sonia, is in this little juke car right here. She's coming around. This is the stadiums are right over here in Kansas City. And she was coming around to go on 435 South to go get one of our clients and take her to a closing. She was over on the Kansas side. And she was going to pick her up, take her to closing. And she must have been coming off this entrance ramp and somebody clipped her and that white van hit her head on in the Nissan Juke. Which, by the way, the Jukes, do you guys know what those cars look like? I mean, have you seen the little tiny cars that drive down the highway? And then you see a regular car, this one's in the middle. The Jukes look like little go-karts. So the fact that she took a head-on collision in it and survived was amazing. The car did what it was supposed to do. The car was pretty much totaled, as you can see, just totally smashed the whole front end, nothing left of it. And she did survive. So I was on a plane that day. She actually was unconscious when they got her at 10 o'clock, shut down. I mean, she was the news for the day, shut down the whole highway during right around rush hour traffic. And I got the call about 1 o'clock in the afternoon and I'm in Louisiana. My flight's not leaving until 4. And she was unconscious for a while, so they didn't know who she was. And she woke up around 11. And then my ex-wife called me to tell me, hey, everything's okay. She's okay, but she's in the hospital and had an accident. So another thing that's kind of weird that your ex-wife would be the one that gets to call and tell you, but that's the relationship we have because we have 3 daughters together. So, and she was my ex-wife's cancer buddy. So it just kind of tells you relationships are cool. And Eva did call me and tell me about all this. So what happened here, she got basically the head-on collision, shoved the dash through her knee, pushed her knee through her hip socket, shattered her hip out. And she's 43 years old. So she's got a shattered hip, goes through the surgery. She's going to be on crutches for 12 weeks, no weight on your feet whatsoever. And the last thing I wanted her to do was be like a hobbling 90-year-old woman that I have to carry around with me everywhere. So we didn't let her get off her feet for nothing. We would actually find her about week 7 or 8, the kids and I, she'd be sitting in the living room and we'd see her do this. And she'd get up and she'd start going to the kitchen and we'd all come flying in from every door and yell at her, get back down. What do you need? We'll go get it for you, So anyway, she got through the 12 weeks, she recovered, got back to normal, was plugging her back into life and getting her involved in the team. And at week 14 after the accident, it was June 23rd, she just didn't wake up. She was sleeping, everything's fine. I mean, life's back to normal, kind of, right? She just said she was ready to start driving again, went and bought a new car. So she'd been driving for a week and then just Tuesday morning, just in bed snoring like a trucker and just didn't wake up. So I tried to wake her up, nothing, called 911 and she did not wake up. So they basically took her to the hospital. They lost her for about 4 minutes on the way to the hospital. They lost her for another 4 minutes in the ER and they got her back. But 8 minutes without oxygen to your brain, parts of your brain die. And the brain is a very crazy thing. So we never did figure out what exactly happened, but it was most likely a blood clot that caused heart attack or it really, I think she just went to sleep in the middle of the night. So I think it was like a partial block that just not enough oxygen put her down. And that put her into a coma. That lasted 5 months. So from here, if you guys know where Lincoln, Nebraska is, we're talking now, wait, I'm going to come back to reality for a second. Korn team, our living, selling 100 properties a year. We have an assistant, a buyer's agent, me and Sonia. And we've had our team as big as 9, and we tried to grow into an expansion, or not expansion team. We added an ISA team and all this other stuff, and we were growing. And then the mismatch of some of the personalities caused everybody getting mad at each other because everybody was accountable to each other. And that's how our structure was set up. So they all quit. It was down to 4 of us that were running our team. And then this happened. So I'm the main listing agent. I have my assistant and then a showing agent that just joined us. She had worked for us about 7 years prior. So I find out Lincoln, Nebraska has the best brain injury hospital in the country. So I'm like, just do it, get her there. Because I learned from Gary Keller, I mean, this is on a totally different note, but for his son to learn fly fishing, he took him to Colorado in some mountain somewhere and found the best fly fisherman in the world and had him teach his son John how to fly fish. So I'm like, well, okay, brain injury is a little more important. So I asked the doctors where they would go, and they all said Madonna and Lincoln. So I spent 5 months in Lincoln, Nebraska, driving back to Kansas City one night a week to do all my listing appointments. I would stack them in the evening and in the morning, get as many of all my listing appointments done, and I'd go back to Lincoln for another week, and they just ran the systems. So in 2015, we sold 97 homes, and I wasn't even there for 5 months. So that's when you don't even plan for that, right? It just happened. And it was a wake-up call that my systems were running my business, not, I was just doing my piece of it. My team was doing their piece of it. And that's where, you know, in January or February, well, actually I haven't gotten there yet. In November 4th of 2015, after 5 months of all this stuff and all the brain things and everything, I finally connected the dots in a very hard way and realized that she had not done anything twice. She did a lot of stuff that we asked her to do, but never ever did the same thing twice and really wasn't ever doing what we were asking her to do. She wasn't really there. And we knew she didn't want to live like that. So the girls and I had to have a conversation. She's not on life support, guys. And you have to let your wife go. I mean, that was the hardest thing I ever, because I'm like, what do you do? I mean, and they're like, yeah, I mean, we can keep her alive forever like this. And I'm like, no, she'd haunt me if I did that. So we had to make her go. So that's a whole nother thing you got to live with, right? But the kids were behind me 100%. We knew she wouldn't want to live like that. She was the person that every one of you would have had a hug and a kiss from her. And she'd give you the shirt off of her back. So we were partners for 20 years. So the point of bringing this story up is it made me realize in January of 2016, I realized I was looking at Gerber's book and I was like, oh my gosh, Gerber get me to read the book and put the systems in place, got me to sell 97 homes with systems on my team. And I realized I didn't even think about my house payment being made for 6 months, 5 months, not once. Never did I think about my cars being made. So I'm going to say what I learned out of this, my life lesson is you got to get out of your comfort zone, because I was plugged into maps. I mean, hanging around Tony DeCello, Diana Kokoska, Gary Keller. These are the people that are pushing you out of your comfort zone all the time. And if I hadn't been pushed out of my comfort zone, here's what I figured out would have happened. If you're at comfortable, which a lot of us are really comfortable right now, it's been a good real estate year and things are good and they're rolling smoothly, but we don't have $1 million sitting in the bank. We're not uncomfortable yet, right? That when bad things happen, it sucks you down to uncomfortable, and you're trying to deal with a major situation and you're uncomfortable with everything else. And that's where like our HPIC and all that supporting all that stuff comes from, because they didn't have insurance, or now they don't have income, and now they're dealing with this and that, and now we need help and all that other stuff. People genuinely don't like to ask for help. I mean, when they came to me at HPIC and said, we want to give you some money, I was actually in a position where I could say, this means so much to me, but I'm not taking it because I'm good, because I was above comfortable. And when that bad thing happened, it sucked me to comfortable. My bills were still being paid and everything. And I flat out told Diana Kokoska, I said, don't give me the money, save it for somebody else who really needs it. I've got systems in place that basically carried me through, so I'm okay. I'm going to be all right. And that was a huge feeling to say that. So get out of your comfort zone is the first thing. Second thing I'm going to say is that when you stay at comfortable and bad things happen, you get sucked down to comfortable, you can miss life. This lady showed up in my life just 5-6 months after Sonia passed away, and I should have missed it, because most people, shouldn't you get a free pass to just go and crawl into a hole for the next year or two if you lose your spouse? I mean, and some people say, you know, oh, you didn't give it enough time. I never did not give it enough time. I also knew she didn't want us to just curl up and not do anything. She wanted us to enjoy life to the fullest. I mean, guys, during this year, we were going to World Series games because that's what Sonia would want us to do, right? Not because we had to go to the baseball game. it was because she would want us to do that, and we had the tickets already bought before all this happened. So I would have missed meeting Lynette, and I'm telling you, life is so amazing that I feel so blessed that I would get another chance when some people say they can't even find love in a life, right? So it's amazing. She's an awesome lady. We live a great life, live at the lake, and it provides all this stuff that we're doing together too. So here's a couple things that I base the businesses on. One, Gerber said in the email, if your business isn't growing, it's dying. And when I looked at that, and also make ordinary people extraordinary. So like when you go to McDonald's, those are probably about the most ordinary people we would know that work, right? And you get the same burger every time you go. I get the same like gut wrench right here every time I eat one of those quarter pounders of cheese. It's the same spot every single time. They're consistent. Starbucks. I mean, you can go in and order your Starbucks coffee with have you listened to people order Starbucks coffee? Have you ever heard anybody say the same thing twice? It's crazy. And they do it in the same amount of time, and they process everybody through quickly. Not that they don't have backups and things break down. But the point is that setting up a system so that ordinary people deliver an extraordinary level of service. And real estate agents think a lot of times our clients are doing business with us because of us. And it's hard to give away things, when in actuality, all you have to do is know what it is about you they like, and anybody can emulate that if they follow your system and become you, right? They can deliver that same level of service. And if your business isn't growing, it's dying, that kind of comes back to the millionaire real estate agent. I mean, Gary, a lot of the stuff that applies to everything I'm going to share with you goes to the 4 laws of lead generation, the 7 levels in your business, the 8x8, the 36 touches, and the database is your business. That right there, that one class, it's an old class. You might be able to find it somewhere, but the database is your business. As Gary would say, I can look at your database and tell you what kind of business you have. And I can tell you now today, with over 20,000 hours in a database, creating systems and managing database and contacts and records and relationships, I can look at every single one of your guys' databases, just open it up, let me see it for a second, and I can tell you exactly how many deals you're doing, how many you're missing, how your business looks, just by looking at your database for a second. So that's all true. So it all comes down to, in E-Myth, Gerber talks about the 3 things, the 3-legged stool, which is the client fulfillment system, the lead capture system, and the lead conversion system. And that's the same as leads, listings, leverage, sort of. I mean, it's capturing the lead into the funnel, cultivating it so that you can close it. And what most people do on the 4 laws of lead generation, where it says build a database. Now look at this. This is so lines up with Gerber. Number 2 is feed it every day. What's the 3rd word in that line? Every. But guys, I've been coaching top teams in this company for a long time. I don't know, I can't show you anybody besides one person that I know for sure feeds their database every day. And I'm not talking about internet leads coming into it. I'm talking about relationships every day, growing the business, connecting with another person. I don't know anybody that does it every day. I've been on the top teams in offices, and they might do 5 new people a week on a team of people of 10, right? So one particular team that I was inside brought in 15,000. I just basically opened their database every day and saw how many contact records they had. And every week I just opened that up and saw what the number was. In 6 months, we added 15,000 contacts to their database. It was through an internet source that they were paying for leads for, right? 15,000 people in 6 months. And in that 6 months, we had closed 72 transactions on that team. 72 transactions divided into 15,000, just looking at the new leads, is less than 0.1%, 0.01%, right? And so, and if your database, in most real estate agents, and this is the top team in the office, if 50% of your closed business is from relationships and referrals and database, then really they only had 30 transactions out of 15,000 leads. That's horrible. Why are you spending 10 grand a month on leads, or whatever they were spending? I don't know. So this is what I figured out. Agents are building a database and then servicing all the leads that come their way. They're skipping step 2 and 3, feeding it every day and then communicating with it systematically. So here's where I want to kind of start to get a little real. I want you to start thinking of these numbers because they're going to mean something in a minute. How many people do you have in your database? If you have a piece of paper or something, write down how many people you think you have in your database. Now, the first question I'm going to say might hurt a little bit. You guys are okay with me being real with you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how many of those people have heard from you in the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks? Right, look at that number. Now, I also want you to think about how many Facebook friends do you have? And I know you all have heard me say this one before, but write down the number of, like, just open Facebook and however many friends are on there, write that number down. And then also on your cell phone contacts, go to your contacts and on, I believe it's, I know on, what am I thinking here? What services are there? Android, I think it's a number at the top of your contacts somewhere that tells you how many contacts are in your cell phone. And on the other one, it's down at the very bottom. If you hit contacts and scroll to the bottom and look how many numbers you have. Those numbers are going to mean something to you in just a few minutes, okay? So anyway, what I realize is nobody's feeding it every day and they're not communicating with it systematically because everybody says, I really could do a better job of following up on my database. I really could do a better job of that. I really need to clean my database up. And what I also see agents do is I'm going to hire somebody. I'm going to hire my first assistant. First thing I'm going to ever do is come in and clean up my database. Clean up my database. Guys, it's your database. It's relationships. It's people. Cleaning up the database is going to do nothing for you, right? And it's going to be a clean, whatever it is right now today. So anyway, how many of you are feeling just a little, got a little stomach ache after these numbers so far? Yeah. I mean, is anybody else got their database nailed and you're like wondering why you're here yet? No, maybe, I don't know. Okay, so let me just kind of start walking through the process. We're in chaos. The reason why we don't feed our database every day is because we have all this stuff we have to do. You have to go put a sign in the yard. You have to put a sold sign up. You got to go pick the sign up from the closing today. You got, oh shoot, my lockbox. Did I pick up the radon machine? Did I write my thank you notes? Did I make my calls for a day? You got to show houses. You got to do all this stuff that we have to do, right? And one of the things that I picked up on early on was somebody was talking, Gary was talking about building a 20-lane highway. That if you build a 20-lane highway from the very beginning, it never has to go under construction. Are we dealing with a little bit of construction around town right now? You guys having to fight through some of this stuff? I mean, I'm not even taking I-70 back home. It was shut down on one side. I'm not even going that way. So when you build a 2-lane highway, you start in real estate and you just start going and you get real busy, right? Your 2-lane highways get packed. This is what agents do. They put their business under construction while they're busy to bring in a new person or to do this or do that. And so they put their highway under construction and they have to train people and teach them all this stuff while they're the busiest they've ever been. And then they expand it to 4 lanes. And then you get going again and all of a sudden you get over the hump and everything starts running smooth, traffic's flowing good. Then you get busy again. And then you put your highway under construction, you add 2 more lanes by adding another person. And I have to train, I have to do all that stuff. So all I did was start hanging around people that were doing 300 transactions a year. And I started just putting their systems in place. What is it that you're doing? What is it that you're doing? How do you do that? What's your system? What's your system? So when I kind of jokingly say I'm the laziest agent that sells 100 homes a year, it's because I have a 20-lane highway that can handle about 300 transactions and I'm doing 100 through it. So I kind of play and goof around a lot. Or I do a lot of other things too, right? Follow a lot of other things, coaching and this and everything else. So systems allow you to be consistent, persistent, they're predefined, they're repeatable, and they're automatic, and you can actually predict what's going to happen to them when it's the right system, right? That's what we're going to go through. And this is just the results. I mean, guys, this is amazing. So I've come from a lot of offices where I personally rank myself. This is not like ego talking or like bragging or anything. I'm applying for a job. No, I'm kidding. That was something else, wasn't it? That was Hardy. But when you show up on the top 5, 10 top agent in an office with 550 agents, that as a top individual, based on listing units taken, Brad Korn was #1 out of 580 something agents in an office for taking listings. When I didn't work that hard, I feel guilty for taking that spot. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what is happening? And no judgment to everybody else other than Our industry teaches us to go get the next deal, get the next deal, get the next deal, get the next deal. We're blowing past all the other people that aren't doing anything right now. And 98% of them are all doing a deal next month, the month after that, the month after that, the month after that. Did you follow me on that, right? So we're going to show you some math numbers here in a minute. But when you're selling that many houses in a month, it's fun and it's easy because it's systematized. And I did the last couple of years, I went totally solo. I mean, in 2019, I didn't even have a sign runner. Brad Korn ran his whole business and sold 66 homes that year because we had some Super Bowl games. I had to go check out pre-game or the playoff games and all the other stuff that we were doing. And that last year we moved to the lake and it's, oh man, I mean, I'm losing 30 deals a year. So I'm closing around 60 to 70 deals a year, totally solo with no overhead. Not anything I'm bragging about, because I don't have any leverage and I lose 30 deals a year, right? But it was all part of the test to prove that these systems work. Otherwise, I wouldn't be so hyped up on sharing them with you. And then it allows you to do really cool stuff. Like in 2020, I was the top contributor to HPIC for our Overland Park office. I think it was HPIC, KW Cares. I mean, I'm just blown away at that. I mean, I just donate from every sale, and I had enough sales that I was the top donation person for the year. So anyway, just allows you to do a lot more stuff. So money is good for the good that money does, that you do with the money that does. Does, I don't know. All right, cool. All right, this is kindergarten class. We will start college class next week. Okay, your database is a gold mine. Guys, people already know you. They know who you are. They talk to you. You know who they are. They're in your phone. They're on your Facebook friends list. I mean, they're your friend. That's what Facebook says, right? So anyway, you might have some duplicates on there and all that other stuff, but people like working with people they know, like, and trust. And you have all these people that already know you. So the difference between mass marketing, throwing a whole bunch of stuff out there versus one-on-one relationship building, see, that takes more time. You can reach more people in the bulk, but we're going to find out here today that the bulk still gets a very small percentage turnover. So you either need to have a lot of money. If you've gone through Ignite, we talk about marketing versus prospecting, and one's more money intensive, one's more time intensive. So when you're newer in real estate, you have all the time in the world to totally cash in on what I'm sharing with you today. Like, do it now, build your pipeline so packed so that when you finally want to start spending a ton of money on all this marketing stuff, you've already got a pipeline of business just coming through. But it's not that you don't shut the other stuff off. It's just if we focus from the relationships first versus the bulk, you're going to find a whole different business happening, and probably about 6 to 8 times more than what you're doing now. So let me get this into reality. Make sure I stay on track too. Let me get into reality. How often does the average person move?
5 to 7 years.
5 to 7 years. Anybody disagree with that number? Think it's longer? Think it's shorter?
7 to 10. 9.
7 to 10.
I was gonna say yes on our article that it was
7
7 to 10.
to 10.
It's gonna be longer after the last 2 years.
Yeah. So I'll tell you kind of what we've seen. We've seen it as short as 3 to 5 in a hot market, right? We've seen it 5 to 7, which is what NAR usually puts out. The 7 to 10 is really the 10 started. 10 never existed before 2005. Well, and as most people know it, and maybe you even know it that way, is 2008 when the market crashed. People were upside down and couldn't move, right? That's when it stretched into 10. And I think it was about 11 or 12 at family reunion. Gary Keller was on stage. Everybody still say 5 to 7, 5 to 7. It's always been 5 to 7. He goes, it's been 10, guys. So I'll tell you guys this right now. I know for a fact it got to 10 because one of my follow-up systems in my database is something for the next 10 years. When you buy a house from me, I stay in touch with you for 10 years. And I never, ever saw the end of a 10-year plan. It was always 5 to 7 that they would end up buying. And I could just look at the plan and tell you where they were in the plan when they bought. In 2008 or 9 or 10, it might have been, I had to actually create a 10-year to 20-year plan. And over the next 5 years, I actually had to create a 10 or 20 to 30-year plan. So there were some people actually, and I don't even remember starting that one on very many, but my 10 to 20-year plan starts on about, I don't know, 3 or 4 out of 10 people. And so it did turn into that for a while. And that's the only reason why I know it's been validated in my world that there actually was 10 years. So let's look at this. We'll go with the middle of the road just for simplicity's sake. And to start the math out easy, if you had 100 people moving every 7 years, that's 15 people moving every year. Follow me, right? And 15 people moving every year divided by 12 months is about 1 a month. So that's another reason why if you've been to Bold or anything like that, and they say, call 100 people in one day, you should get about what? 2 or 3 appointments? What do you guys see happen at Bold, right? Ringing the bell.
Yeah.
Anybody who gets their 100 pin usually reports about 2 or 3 appointments, and they usually get a listing. And the reason why that happens is because only one person of those 100, the day I called them, knows they're one of the one that are moving this year. See, I said there's 15 people moving, but 14 of those people don't know they're one of the ones that are moving until next month. And the next one doesn't know until the next month. Follow me? So now let's look at real numbers. If your number is anywhere close to 1,000 or over 1,000, and they're moving every 7 years, which could be 10, so we can adjust the numbers. Do you realize that right now you have a list of 142 sales at least? I mean, unless the numbers aren't right. If they're staying in their house every 20 or 30 years, then this is all out the window, but we know they're not. Nobody is on average. So you have 142 sales right now in front of you. 2,000 people, 284. 500 people, 71, right? So over 12 months, that's 12 of those people are moving every single month. And this is the part where you're going to have to open your mind and just agree to agree based on these numbers. 12 people moved and you got 2 sales. What the freak happened, right? I mean, 10 people that know you moved without you. Are you kidding me? And if you want to validate it, put together that whole entire list, blast out a returnable mail piece. Have you guys ever done this? Have you done a bulk mail in a while? And you get a lot of yellow stickers back, like a stack like this every time you get them back? Those are the 10 that moved without you every single month. Those hurt. Those hurt bad. And see, at one point, it hurt so bad, I was like, I want to know why they didn't call me. This doesn't make any sense. And I never kept in touch with them. Every time I get a yellow sticker back, if I go to their contact record and look at the plans, there's no plan running.
Yep.
I didn't call them. I never talked to them again, right? So they just lost touch with me. And it's not about sending emails or just mails or just postcards. It's about phone calls and everything else, right? Any questions so far? All right, how many of you need some Pepto-Bismol? All right, so here's the top agent strategy. If you were putting in 5 people a day, every single day, and you were just following the 4 laws, just 4 laws we have to do. Build a database, we have that. Feed it every day. You fed 5 a day, 5 days a week. That's about 1,000 per year. It's actually 1,200 people per year. If I'm not counting weekends, or if you take whatever your weekend is, right? 5 people a day, 5 days a week is 100 people a month. 12 months is 1,200 people a year. You take 2 months off or you don't get it going right away and you're not really doing 5 a day and you mess up for 2 months, just call it 1,000. So in 5 years, you would have 5,000 people in your database. 5,000 people moving every 7 years is 714 people are moving every single year. Don't even raise your hand if you've been in real estate longer than 5 years. Because right now we have missed out on 700 deals, or at least 600, right? We have to. The numbers are right there. That's 60 closings a month. I mean, even I'm missing business. My 100 deals a year, I've got 6,000 people in the database. I'm just cashing in on the ones that are falling out of the sky. So once you turn on your 5 a day and you're serious about it, you can close 300, 400 transactions and not even be catching them all. You can close 100 deals. Every agent can close 100 deals and screw the whole thing up. As long as you fed it and you made your calls, you'll close 100 transactions a year, all day long, every day. I can't figure out anybody that wouldn't be able to do this in real estate. So you do it for 5 years, you got 714 opportunities. So here's what happens. Make the Phone Ring Again was a class I put together that just talks about building these systems and cleaning up your database. And that pipeline gets your phone to ring. See, guys, when all the 70 deals I did last year, my phone was ringing. There was no hardcore lead generation, 4 hours on the phone calling for business. It was just coming in, it's coming in, it's coming in. Got $1 million one coming on Saturday. She's gone through 3 agents because everybody keeps promising her the world. I've talked to her on day 1 and she comes back to me. She calls me last week and says, I should have just listed with you the first time. And I know exactly what you did. You let me go with these other agents to know that I need to list with you. Like, yeah, I did, because you wouldn't listen to me. You thought everybody else was promising you the world. And I kept telling you, it's like, I know my family kept saying, go with this guy, go with that guy. And I just kept listening to him. I'm done listening to him. So that doesn't always happen. Usually they just call me and it's a come list me, almost always. But that trust has been there through all of that. And she's wasted all this market time. However, guess what now? She's going to be priced right, because she was way wrong when I first met her. And one of my best friends was up against me on it. She goes, that lady's crazy if she thinks she's getting $2 million for it. I didn't tell her she was crazy. I just kept talking to her and I let her list with the first guy at 2, the next guy at 1.5, the last guy at 1.2. I'm thinking I can get her to 800,000 and I'll sell that thing, right? So anyway, that's just one example. But what you have to do is you have to make sure they think of you. What's that?
It's a huge price difference, 2 million to 800,000.
Well, yeah, you've been overpriced sellers before, right? Yeah. So they have to think of you when they think of real estate. If you're not the first person they think of, they're not going to remember to call you. So let's play a little game here. And this is a really fun game, actually. There are no wrong answers. And I'm going to randomly pick somebody in the room for 3 questions, 3 of you. Everybody else play along, but not out loud. I want you to play along in your head and write your own answers down. And same with online. I see you guys over there. So you're going to play the game too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a product. And when I say that product, I just want you to start rattling off as many brands as you can think of. And they're easy products. This isn't a tricky thing, okay? So I'm going to start over here with Demetrius. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you your first product, okay? Are you ready? Here we go.
No pressure.
Tennis shoes, go, as many as you can think of.
Nike, Adidas, Puma.
Okay, that was good. See, there are no wrong answers. There are no wrong answers at all. All right, let's see, you're in the front row. We're gonna go with you. All right, so here we go, potato chips.
Lay's, Guys, Cheetos, Doritos.
All right,
I feel like
okay.
these are all the same.
All right, last one's going to Greg. Here we go.
Okay.
Toothpaste.
Crest, Colgate, Sensodyne, whatever that's called.
That's for your- oh, that's
All right, so
not- Judging happening.
So isn't this interesting? Okay, did you guys hear the answers? What we have to become is the Nike, the Lay's, and the Crest in their mind for real estate. And also what you just experienced was NAR statistics. 76% of all sellers talk to one agent. 19% will talk to a second agent. So that, if you add those up, is about what, 90-something percent, 92, 93%? And a third of the sellers will talk to one other agent. How many of you ripped off the first one? You kind of thought of a second one, even stumped for a second, and then you barely get thought of the third one. We have to become the Nike, the Lay's, and the Crest. And the way you do that is by being top of mind and in front of them all the time. They hear your voice, they picture your face in their mind. I mean, the thought of everybody waking up having to think of me every single day seems horrendous in my world, but I'm glad you guys think of me, and I'm glad I'm not totally like a total radio face, right? So the branding game, we got to become the Nike, Lay's, and the Crest. And here's the millionaire real estate agent stuff. And Hobbs Herder started a marketing example where he took a neighborhood, Don Hobbs, they took a neighborhood and they created a fictitious realtor and they marketed to it 8 times in 8 weeks to buy brains, to buy mind share. You know, like during the Super Bowl, the old Budweiser days where they had them on the end caps, they're on commercials, they're on flyers, they're in magazines, they're everywhere. Spud McKenzie, everywhere, right? So it was being about top of mind, and they did this study. So when they talked to the agents that were millionaire agents, they did more consistent, persistent follow-up than anybody else, and that's how they made $1 million. They also had longevity, though. So keep in mind that the 28 agents that are in the back of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book who made $1 million selling real estate had all been in business for longer than I was when the book came out. So they've been in business 30, 40 years. So there's some numbers there too, but they talk about marketing to the general public is just prospecting and marketing. Billboards, bus benches, whatever you're doing, shopping carts, that kind of stuff. When you get a little more targeted, these people still haven't met you. When you target a neighborhood, you do a postcard campaign, you're trying to get like some headline marketing thing, some call to action that gets them to call you. Now, some people would call that lead generation. I call that lead receiving because you throw it out there and then you're waiting for the phone to ring anyway. You're not picking up the phone and calling them. That's prospecting. But if you're waiting for them to call back in, you're waiting on your lead receiving on that. And then when you do finally talk to somebody, somebody calls you on anything you send out, you meet them or go into the Met group, and that's where the book said, now you want to put them on an 8x8 33 touch, because you don't want to send somebody 8 things in 8 weeks if you haven't ever met them, right? They call that spam, right? And they're going to shut you down, tell you, take me off your mailing list, all that stuff. So what's interesting is when I'm coaching people and they say, well, I don't want to put my database on an 8x8 33 touch because, you know, what if they call and ask to be removed from my list? Well, did you sell them a house? Yeah. So does that mean you met them? Yeah, but they'd ask to be removed from your mailing list? Yeah, because why? You haven't talked to them in 5 years. They don't remember who you are. So what I figured out, it's not met and haven't met. And actually, here's another, I'll come back to this one. It's more like connected and not connected. Because see, anybody that I'm connected with, if we had a connection and a good relationship, that we had a good two-way conversation, you're not going to call me and ask to be removed from my mailing list. Are you? I mean, I'm going to send you a note. You're going to get a letter in the mail, maybe an email. You're not going to look at everything, but you're not going to ask me to remove you from my list. No one has ever asked to be removed from my mailing list if they're connected. Everyone that's not connected will. I mean, you'll get those calls a lot of times, right? Take me off your mailing list. So right now, I would challenge that every one of you, your entire database is now moved back out into the outer ring and they become not Mets again, or we're disconnected. So if you reconnect with your database over the next 6 months, 5 people a day, 5 days a week, 600 people in the next 6 months, 1,200 people in the next 12 months, and you did that, you're going to have 120, well, really probably about 210 opportunities every year from there on out. Because see, those 142 people out of the 1,000 that are moving this year, there's another 142 people moving next year, and another 142 people moving the year after that, and another 140 for the next 7 years. And then at the end of 7 years, guess what happens? The first 142 move again, and the next 142 move again, and the next 142 move again. So I could survive at 142 sales a year on 1,000 people in my database for the rest of my real estate career. But if you just add 5 people a day and get to 6,000, now you can have 700 sales a year, and it could support a team and give you leverage to be gone, right? To be out of your business. If you were closing 700 deals a year and you had a team, do you think there's enough on the top to just pay you a pretty decent living for the rest of your life without ever having to come in? Like you could literally sell your team to your team and still make $1 million a year if they're closing 700 transactions a year, right? Or maybe 500,000 a year doing nothing. So, I'll go back here. My buddy Michael Mayer, anybody heard of 7 Levels of Communication, that book? So he takes the relationship, what a relationship really looks like, and takes you through the relationship phase. This graphic is perfect for explaining what happens in real estate. So there's an information zone where we do advertising, direct mail, email campaigns. We're trying to give them information to pick up the phone and call us, a call to action, something so amazing they would want to miss out. And this is where most everybody hangs out, and it gets very little impact. You get a very small percentage return on the things you do here. But once these people meet you and cross over into what we call the Met world, and you can write them a note because now you know where they live and you had a personal conversation, and you move that into phone calls and like client events or first-time home buyer events, and you're meeting them one-on-one and having coffee with them and inviting them to your house for dinner, having housewarming parties, that kind of stuff. The impact is way bigger because you have influence over them now. Now you're in the influential zone, and that's when you get referrals. You don't get referrals down here. Nobody's even getting any referrals here. So, because you're just providing information, trying to get them to come through. Right there.
It's not the first time it's come up.
Oh, man. All right, so I just want to kind of burn through a couple more chapters. Any questions so far? Is this good stuff? Are you guys getting a little more excited about your database and how much business is really in there? Or wait, I haven't showed you how to get it yet, have
Okay,
I?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So you were talking about being connected versus not connected. How do you define when you're connected and not to put them on an 8x8?
Yeah, when you know they won't ask to be removed from your mailing list. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, or if I have talked to them enough that I actually know where they live, that's really connected for me. You don't get to be one of my 5 unless I know where you live, because I can't send you a note if I don't know where you live.
That's good.
Does that make
So
sense?
then what do you do? Just keep them kind of like a relationship plan until you get that information and then.
Great question. So agents will ask me this all the time. Hey, guys, come back with us. Agents will ask me this all the time. If I can't put them on an 8x8, according to Gary Keller and a study of 28 people that make $1 million, there's only one other thing I'm supposed to have them on. All right. We all make this way more difficult than we need to make it. You're either on a 12 touch or an 8x8 and 33 touch. And the 8x8 is one time to buy the brain sales, to get, boom, 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 boom. I'm thinking of you when I think of real estate. The 33 or 36 touch actually keeps you there. Because we know if you did 24 touches, and this is where I picked up coaching top agents, well, I do a modified 36, 33 touch. I was like, I'm teaching MREA stuff, but modified, wait, where did it say modified, the 33 touch in the book? I don't remember that being part of the study. Well, I mean, 33 is a lot to mail to these people. They're going to want to be removed. And that's when I clicked. And I'm like, oh, see, we're putting not met people or not connected people on this really aggressive drip plan. And it said connected, meaning you just had a good connection. So that's how I figured out the connected and not connected. Jay and Gary didn't want to change the names of those in the book. I did talk to them about it. They're like, yeah, the book's already printed, Brad. That was years ago. You should have been on that panel. I was like, yeah, okay. All right. So I was still learning from all those people. So in the book, I talk about management systems and personal touch systems. So I create campaigns or action plans. We know them today as SMART plans in Command, if you use Command. And I create custom plans for everything, self-accountability plans that I turn a plan on myself, on my own contact record to make sure I feed my 5 in every day. In fact, I'm sending myself an email every day. It says, did you add your 5 today? Click this link and it takes it to the fill-in form where I add their name, address, phone number, and it goes right into the database. And I send it to myself to hold myself accountable, right? The system is holding me accountable, not me holding somebody accountable, right? The second thing is just the personal touch systems. I mean, when you build a big team, talking to your customers and all, but if you have a big team, I mean, I have this system I'm putting in place for you guys. I got 138 agents to keep in touch with, and I need to become a part of your life. The only way that's going to happen is something reminds me it's been a month since I talked to you, or it's been 2 months since I talked to you, or however often you want to be talked to. So this is one of the plans that I had for one of my buyer's agents. It's the lead accountability sheet. And so for Lois to fill in, she got this on day 1. There's your link to fill your people into the database. She's got drip reminders telling her to remember to put leads in and little stories along the way to keep her motivated. And this is what the link looks like. So here's Lois's past clients, her sphere, or people that she met that she's not connected with yet. So take that into consideration for everything we've gone through. If she clicks on this and adds somebody, it's probably an internet lead, a sign call. She hasn't gotten them on the phone yet. So what do you imagine they're probably going on? A 12-touch plan, right? Now, if it's people that she knew, her sphere, I actually created a reconnect plan that I'm going to give you all the 4-step reconnect plan right at the end of this class. So you can walk out of here and start reconnecting with your entire database, 5 a day, every day, until you get through to A to Z, right? So, and then here's our Korn team leads. So these people came in and we had to decide what drip to put them on, or they went on a 12-touch plan. So they were not connected. But if somebody's connected, they went in and you had their address and their phone number. The very first action item said, did you send them a note? And how many times it's just like we're busy and we talked to somebody connected, and I had to actually add the step. Did you send the handwritten note? Even though I send the note immediately right away all the time. I still have to have it in there to make sure I sent the note. Here was one from the internet plan. So these campaigns, the way these systems work is whenever we got internet leads, see, I knew we made the first call. I knew we made the second call. It was the third call that was questionable, and I almost can guarantee you none of our internet leads get a fourth call in 4 days. Because now 3 days have passed since they first came in, and I got more internet calls the next day, and I got more internet leads the day after that, and you're calling them for the first time, and you're calling some of the other people from yesterday for the second time. There is no way you're calling the person from 3 days ago for a fourth time. You see what I'm saying? It just snowballs into this monster thing. So 15,000 internet leads, and we had 35 closed from wherever they came from, right? So I created a plan that it puts their name in front of me on my call list every day for the first 3 days. And I've got some emails going out, follow up. It's been 10 days since we connected. We already helped another buyer find another house in that last 10 days. We don't want you to miss out. We've been trying to reach you too. And then I got a call on day 5, and then I got one more call on day 11. I never call them again. So I have a system that has me call them 4 or 5 times. And then if I haven't gotten them on the phone in 5 calls, they go on a 12 touch plan forever, email drip. I'll never see that person's name again. Why would I continue to call an internet lead for the next 6 months? And some of these ISA teams and things, I see them just, they got to keep them busy on the phone. They're paying them, and they're just calling these old leads that have never answered the phone. They're dead numbers. It's a waste of time. You got more internet leads coming in. Get the ones converted that you can convert and get that note in the mail and move them over to the Met. This was just a sample of our 8x8. We send out a letter, just says, hey, it's a pleasure to meet you. We're glad we got to know you. Now this comes about a week after they got the handwritten note. Here's how our team works. There was a picture of them. And then once the 8x8's over, we move them on to the 33, which is now known as the 36 touch. And it's just a mixed mediums. If you wrote down anything, mix up your mediums, not all email, not all mail. I mean, if you got time, you can do all calls, but I don't know what you're going to talk about every 11 days on the phone, and you won't either, so you won't do it. So add some emails in there, spread, like I only have like no more than 6, 7 emails a year, because if I send them an email every month, it just becomes white noise, and they're not even paying attention to me. I become one of the bulk deletes because they're not expecting anything from me. So we just sent different stuff out. We had moving boxes that we gave sellers when they moved. I had a local supplier that had boxes. He got a Walmart account. He had to move his socks into their specific box thing. So I went and picked up truckloads of boxes from him. They were the perfect moving boxes. So I grabbed an Avery label, put my logo on it, and we would go to a seller and go, how many boxes do you need? Really? I mean, like, we probably need 50 to 100. Okay, I get to see my 3rd stall this month, right? Because it was just stacks of boxes in my garage. But everybody, like, this idea had just kind of come out, and some top agents were providing, we'll give you 5 moving boxes, and they were logoed, and they spent way too much money on them, but they were really pretty. And I'm like, who needs 5 moving boxes? Nobody needs it. That's just silly, right? And I bought a moving truck so they could just use the moving truck, right? And I just leased it, and then I sold advertising on the back door, so I zero-based it. But all the content, this is the part I'm gonna write you down. You might put this in bold, underline it, circle it, star it. Content doesn't matter. The content that you're sending out is not gonna matter. And if you wanna change it later, that's fine. But I would suggest you guys, I'm gonna give you a free resource site. You can download all of my 36 touch, 33 touch letters and just put them into a letter and start using the plan tomorrow. It's all there for you. However, if you read just one of the letters, you won't do it. You'll do what I did. You spent 6 months trying to create the perfect little message that you want to put out every week or every month. And it'll be 6 months will go by and you haven't even added a person to your database. So why are you working on the content? I created blank letters in all of my plans and blank emails, and I put them all in there with my calls and my personal touches, and I started the plan. When blank letters started coming out of my printer, because it's a plan, it's running, I can't turn it off. Blank paper shot out of my printer for weeks. Then I started adding content. It's like, I can't just shoot blank papers forever. This was a cool idea, but I probably need to put something on there, right? So I threw I just started copy and pasting first thing that came across my email. Why geese fly in a V formation? Some puppy dog story from Chicken Soup for the Soul. I didn't even care because 98% of the people that I'm marketing this to aren't moving right now. So it didn't matter if it was real estate or not. Now I threw in my website on one thing or this and that. So we just have different things on the real estate success stories, which I copied those from somebody. It's like, here's how you can help us with referrals. We help somebody buy a for sale by owner, and this for sale by owner ended up getting money back at closing or something, you know, whatever. We just gave real estate stories. Again, I spent 6 months going through those stories, trying to think of a client that I helped that was similar to that. And I was changing the story to their name and then making it more their story. I was like, what am I doing? Just send the story. Who cares if it's John and Mary? They're not going to call me and go, hey, was that John and Mary Smith? Nobody's going to call me and say that. And the story just gets the point across to get them to think about sending referrals. So I just send out stories. Here's a real estate story. Here's how we can help you. Client systems, you get to focus on, find out more what they like about what you do, and put those things into your systems. Like, how often do they like to be communicated with? What I found when I set these systems up for big teams around KW, they would actually bring me in for 2 days and pay me to come fly to their team, set up all their systems. That's all I did. And every system I looked at, contract to close, a buyer, whatever, whenever it was contract to close, there was no communication for like a month in between the contract getting accepted and right before closing. There really wasn't anything in between that was on purpose. And so that's usually the time that everybody's sitting there going, it's been 2 weeks. Do you think we still bought a house? I'm not even sure what's going on. That's what they're saying in their world, because there's nothing coming out and telling them that things are going good, right? Or when we had a listing, I mean, there was a day where listings did not get multiple offers and they sat on the market for more than 2 weeks. So we had a 2-week check-in, a 30-day check-in, a 45-day check-in, a 60-day check-in on my new listing to 60 days. And at the end of 60 days, the plan would stop and say, now you need to start the 60 to 90-day plan or 120-day plan. Sorry, that was my 6-month contract. The reason I made the plan stop, because it was my wake-up call. This person's been on the market for 2 months. They're probably freaking out that we haven't sold their house yet. So it just got me back in a different mode with them to know at that point. So those check-in points would say, hey, it's been 2 weeks. Here's all the marketing that we're doing. Brad's going to give you a call. In fact, your phone's probably ringing right now, right? So 3 days after the letter went in the mail, I had a call and I'd be calling them. My phone would ring the day they got the letter that said I was going to call them. So it's just like these things just keep popping up that just make them feel very comfortable. So creating the perfect process was another thing that we did. See how much time I got left, probably right about the hour, aren't we? So what I did was we created the perfect process by tracking everything we did from the time we started working with the buyer until they wrote an offer, from the time that offer got accepted until it closed. What was everything that happened? And I wrote it on a timeline. Well, we got to send the contract to the lender. We got to send this to the title company and all that stuff. We put all those dashes in there and created this perfect process. And then I just took that timeline, I turned it on its side. And this is everything that happened from day 0, 0, 1 day later, 2 days later, 3, 3, 3, 5 days later, 5 days later. So those campaigns were real easy to create. That I could just say 5 days later, I want to remember to do this. The second thing that we did was we put the name of everybody on our team, and whatever that item was, we just put an X in the column of who was responsible for that item. So there's a couple of things where it was my buyer's agent and our assistant were both responsible for completing the greens intake form. So if our buyer's agent didn't do it, Danielle would make sure we got it. And that was where we got all their information, their address, their phone number, all that stuff. You will notice in this particular step that Brad is right here. How many of you like that column? Brad's doing nothing. Zippo. I am completely leveraged on the buyer side of my business. 100% leverage, had 4 buyer's agents. I did nothing. I actually did stuff when I wanted to. I was always there to help them. I would always step in and do it, but I was not responsible for anything on the buyer side of my team. Now, when Ellen got mad at our inside sales agent, and these 2, well, these 3 left because Rock was her husband, and those 3 left, the last remaining people just had to go, all right, who's taking this X? Who's taking that X? I'll take this, I'll take that one. I became a buyer's agent. But I just moved the X's, reprinted it out. We had job descriptions instantly that day, who was doing what. We just responded to what part of the system was kicking out to tell us to do our part. How many of you think this is kind of cool? Yeah. I figured it out. You can figure it out, right? And I'm giving it to you as a shortcut. So there's other things too in chapter 21 and 22, just talking about how do you get this done. Well, one of the things that I do is I always schedule time to work on my business. And when I was newer, I had 3 days a week. I literally had Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I had an hour blocked out in permanent black marker because we had paper calendars back then. And that was on. All it said was on. And when on showed up, that's when I created these systems. It's the hardest thing you'll do, but once you create the system, you just have to hit the start button for everybody after that, and then just do what it says to do. Most people can't get through the creating the system part. They get too caught up in it. They make it more difficult than it needs to be. I'm telling you, once it's set up and you just do the timeline and just turn it into a campaign and hit the start button, you're done. Then you're on easy street, right? And then I can add little pieces later if I forgot something. But can you see right here? I might not have had a system if I didn't have it in my calendar. I don't know what I was doing back then, but that's a real picture of my calendar at one point. Okay, so then in 23 and 24, I talk about just, when you create these systems, you get to start leveraging, and then you get to keep the stuff you like to do and give away the stuff you don't like to do, but also you get to give people the stuff they like to do as well, because I always involve my team on those items that they would do stuff. So I always wanted to give them stuff to do. All right, so you guys what's your 4-step process to reconnect with your database? Any questions about the system so far? Is this good? Are you guys glad I did this today?
Yeah.
You guys excited about being 100 sales? Because I can take you there. Right? And all you have to do is say, me, do not me. No, I'm telling you, me, I want to be one of the 100. I will make sure you get there. Okay. So start with your phone list, your social media list, Facebook friends list. And I'm going to give you an old archaic style, but there's a reason. A spiral notebook from Walmart or wherever. Get a spiral college bound notebook and start putting every name from every thing you can find and get them on your master list. Make this your master list. And just like skip a line for everybody. Get everybody's name off of Facebook in your notebook. Then go through your phone and get every number or name out of your phone into that notebook. And then that is going to be your feed form to feed your 5 a day. You're going to feed from there. So what you're going to do is take your notebook, open it up every day for an hour and just start filling in missing information. There's a name. Okay, who is that? Where do they live? Use tax records, fastpeoplesearch.com, Google, Facebook tells you what city they live in. Fastpeoplesearch.com will tell you their address or all the addresses they've been at. Tax records, you guys have access to that, right? So 50% of them will own a house. You'll find them that way. Whatever you have to do to plug in to get address and phone number in that notebook. And then once you get a bunch of addresses and phone numbers in that book, you just pick up the phone while you're looking at your master list notebook, dial that number, and if they answer, have fun. Talk about their family, talk about what's going on, how you doing, connect with them, right? You got their address there. Are you still over on Sycamore Street? Oh, heck no, we sold that house years ago. Another one I missed, right? So, where are you guys now? We're over on ABC Street. Oh, yeah, okay, cool. I can easily look that up on tax records. There they are. If I didn't find them the first time, I'm updating the information. So if I connected with them, I'm writing the note as soon as I hang up the phone, and I'm adding them to my database and starting them on which plan? 8x8. Yeah, that's it. We have a winner. So I'm going to put them on the 8x8, and I'm going to black them out of my notebook. And I'm going to do that every single day. So this is what I find is that most people don't have this notebook sitting there. They'll try to do it in a spreadsheet, and they'll have multiple spreadsheets, and everybody's scattered all over. And as long as you can eliminate every list you have until you get down to one list, you want to use a spreadsheet, then you're taking them off of everything else when you add them on that spreadsheet. And then once you add them to the database, you're taking them off the spreadsheet. You want that spreadsheet to be 0. I want my master list to be completely blacked out. So they're on an action plan campaign in my database. It's the only way. So in this particular case, that's how you're going to feed it. If we're going to connect with the people that are already in your database, 4 steps. Just start with A and go to Z, but you're going to send a letter out that says something along the lines of, hey, I just realized it's been a while since we talked. I haven't talked to you in a while. I apologize. The holidays made me realize that friendships are important and blah, blah, blah. And you can leave holidays in there all year long because there's always a holiday, except for a couple months. And then down at the bottom, it's gonna say, I'm gonna be contacting you the next few days. I want to catch up. That's all it says. Now in the middle, it's got some stuff about, isn't it interesting that people have a family doctor or a family lawyer, but they don't have a family realtor? Like the biggest purchase of your life, right? So there's some real estate stuff in there for the people who's actually gonna read it. How many people read it? None. They read the first couple lines, they read the last line that says you're gonna call. They're like, oh, that's awesome. Well, remember, 3 days later, my campaign's gonna kick out my call. So I'm gonna call about the day they got the letter. So here they just read a letter, said, I haven't talked to you in a while, I apologize, and then I'm gonna call you in a few days. Okay, cool. Then the phone rings and it's you. Guess what they do? They answer the phone because they just got your letter in the mail and they knew you were gonna call. So more people will pick up the phone. And I even sent an email out. So 3 days later, I sent an email with the call, right? And then the to-do at the very end of the plan says, this plan is over. They are not gonna get anything else from you unless you start the next plan. It doesn't quite say all that stuff, but that's what it says. The plan has ended. And when I see that show up on my task list, I know I have to start the next plan. So you just start picking up the phone on A and call till you connect. And then here's another thing I talk about is the 3 purposes for a phone call. We're taught to call and say, hey, this is Brad Keller Williams. Just wonder if you're thinking about buying or selling any real estate, right? And what do they say almost every time?
No.
No, right? So I did this game too. Then I say, okay, well, somebody thought of a great script. They said, well, if they're not, ask them if they know somebody that is. So do you know anybody who's buying or selling real estate? What do they say 99.9% of the time?
Nope.
Can't think of anybody right now.
Oh,
And
no.
yeah, and this is where I just said, you know what? I didn't really expect you to know him, but I'm calling you out of the blue. You haven't talked to me and I don't even know how long it's been. So would you do me a favor? If you are going to use that script, just recover and say, would you do me a favor? Just keep an eye out for anybody who's talking about real estate over the next week or over the holidays. And if you do hear of anybody, will you just remember to give me a call and let me know who they are? And they'll say, yeah, sure, right? Did that. No more referrals coming in. So I started sending a note that said, hey, thanks so much for agreeing to help. I'm going to call you on Friday to see who you saw this week that's buying and selling real estate. I got about 25% more referrals when I did that step. So I just kind of keep adding it until I finally got the results. But it still was only 25%. And it was stuff like, hey, my neighbor's been out there clipping his lawn with scissors again. Last time he did that, he moved because I lived next to him at the last neighborhood. Those are the kind of referrals you get. They're not real referrals, but it was about 25% more than what I got before I did that. So what I would suggest is any call you ever make as a strengthened relationship, real estate's going to happen automatically. You don't even have to talk about real estate. But you do if you're calling strangers. That's a different ballgame. This is people who already know you, who you've had a relationship with that you're reconnecting with. How well do you know your contacts? What I noticed is how many people were either divorced or somebody was dead, kids moved out, didn't even know that. I don't even know if they like dogs or cats. I mean, so you got to get reconnected with them first. Use them family, occupation, recreation, dreams. That's an old sales script, is because people say, what script do I call when I'm calling people out of the blue? Well, the letter set out that you were calling, and all you have to do is just say, hey, I apologize for not keeping in touch. Thought I'd check and see how the family's doing. How you guys doing through all this stuff? What are you doing for the holidays? Recreation, right? So just forget about real estate for a minute. Just get reconnected with them first, because when you do that and you drop a handwritten note right following that, and it says, it was so awesome connecting with you, hearing your laugh again or your voice or whatever you want to say about it. You know, it's great hearing about the hunting stories, all that stuff. Glad you've been able to get out and hunt. It's all about them, and they get that note in the mail. I'm telling you, when that call pops up again in 4 weeks and 8 weeks, they're taking your call. So you're increasing your chances of them not going to voicemail. And when it does go to voicemail, just say, hey, it's nothing urgent. I was just wanting to say how great it was catching up with you a few weeks ago and seeing how you're doing. They'll actually call you back, or they won't, and it doesn't matter, right? Still got the touch. So start the next plan. So go to A to Z and go through your whole entire database. Now, this is what I said earlier. Most people hire somebody to clean up their database. You actually want to be very careful who goes in your database. Your database is a bank vault. Every contact record in there is about a stack of about $5,000 to $10,000 in dollar bills. And you're gonna let somebody else go in there and clean it up? You need to be the one cleaning it up, have them do something else that's keeping you from doing that. Those 5 people a day, reconnecting with the people, because you're the one with the relationship. You can clean up the addresses and phone numbers with a master list over time. You don't need to have everybody's address and phone number. You just need to have about 10 or 20 in your master list to pull 5 off for the day. And then you add more, any chance you get, you work on that master list and get it as full as you can, so you can just call till you get 5, and then you're done with the master list for the day. Black them out, put them in the database, and that's how you're gonna get every single person on a drip plan. So I'll send you guys, actually at the website, you can download just your top ideas list of what you got from today. If you took any notes or wrote anything down, what's the most important thing you have to do next? I mean, it could be just that reconnect plan, right? But anytime you go to any classes, if you use this, you can jot down all your ideas on your best 5 ideas. And let's just say, like I use this for conferences. If it were a 3-day conference, I would fill this sheet out every day for 3 days. And at the end of the 3 days, I would have 15 of my best ideas out of my notes. Because I probably had about 50 things every day in my notes. Got them down to 5, then I got down to 15, and I picked the 3 best ones, and I just made those happen. Because then that one says, who do I need to do it? When do I want to do it by? All that other stuff. So there's your website, emythrealestateagent.com. You guys can go there. When you fill out the form, you're going to be putting your name and your phone number and your email and some notes. You put a comment in there or something. Tell me what you liked about the class or whatever. When you hit submit, it will take you to the free resource site. So you can watch your database is a gold mine. You can probably watch this one. I think this one's on there. It's not really called 100 sales in a year, but or in any market. It's secrets of top selling agents. I talk about the E-Myth book. So it's just a free resource. It's really just a whatever you go, a big mess. It's just there's just all tons of stuff on there. I just throw it on there so people have access to it. All right. So what questions do you have? What do you think you can do, can't do? What do I need to do to help you do this? Yeah.
And we have a meeting, so you put me on the drip plan.
Drip plan. You're going to be on a drip plan when you go to emythrealestateagent.com. You're going to get it all.
Okay.
Yep. You go on a drip plan. Why do you think I have you fill out the form? And it got to the point really like, so I don't do mail to agents anymore. So when you come in through that form, you're going on an all email drip plan. But the reason why I did that is because real estate agents would rather copy and paste and maybe use it than me sending you a letter, right? So I created more value. That's the one thing I can do an all email drip plan on, because I prepared you that it is my 33 touch system and all the letters are going to come to you. So now you're like watching for my stuff. So if you can do that with all your email drip plans and they're waiting for it, do all email. I mean, if you're giving away $1,000 on every email you send somebody, they'll probably all open your emails. Well, maybe not, still not. If you're giving away $1,000, they still might not open it. Good stuff?
So no?
Hmm?
The question.
Yeah,
Could we go to meetings, so you put me on all the, well, not me personally, but help me set those plans up?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, they're actually on the website and I'll help you personally set them up.
Oh.
Yep. Get your master list going first. Put everybody from Facebook in there. See, when you open up your Facebook friends list, you have to write every name down right then. So you need an hour when you do it, because if you leave and come back, your Facebook friends list is all mixed up and different. So you have to go through it one time, write down every name. And guys, if you're going to have agents on it, how many of you have agents on your Facebook? Maybe agents in your cell phone? Do you know what co-oping with and getting agents in your downline? Keep the agents in there. Because then what I would do is I would have a link on those links I showed you. One would be for agents. And when I added an agent in on that link, I would start a smart plan that drips MREA stuff on, or drips the command stuff. You can grab the graphics on command of everything it does from the agent's perspective and start dripping that on the agents you're co-oping with, right? So I have agents on drip plans. Everybody goes on drip plans. Agents send me referrals. Consumers sell houses with me. Everybody goes on drip plan. Coaches have coaching clients. So All right, that's it. I don't have anything else for you. I'm tapped out.
Till 5.
What's that?
I said until 5.
Till 5, yeah.
You can do it again.
Yeah, and Vibe, if you sit through it again too, I mean, that's just hearing it over and over and over, it just starts to become part of it. So, yeah, if you can join us for that. This was recorded though, so
Thank you.
you betcha. What's up, Toby?
What's happening, Brad?
How you doing, man?
Good.
Yeah, have any questions? I'll see if there was any questions on the chat box while you guys are still online. All right, we just had a thank you. So no questions. If you guys have any questions, you can type them in if you're still on. I'll wait a minute or two before I shut it off.
Well, just waiting for closing box. I close it? Not yours. I worry about it. Yep, you had to crack the whip and that more. That's Christine's department.
All right, we're going to shut down the webinar. This will be recorded.
It's not good when I get involved in big work, because that puts me in direct, like,
Is there anything in here?
line
Before board?
between you and her, and it all gets screwed up.
Yeah, we prefer that you stay. I prefer it too.
I have to finish this if I get in the car. It'll be over.
Just better that way.
Well, hopefully she gets her offer. So.